My wife told me she was putting our marriage on pause, and I knew right then that my life was about to fall apart in ways I could not yet imagine. But let me back up. Let me tell you how we got here. It started with money. It always starts with money, doesn't it? Except this time, the money was just the excuse, the trigger, the convenient reason to detonate something that had been building for months, maybe years, and I had been too stupid or too trusting or too comfortable to see it coming. We were sitting at the kitchen table in the house my parents left me when they passed 3 years ago. Same table where I had eaten breakfast before school as a kid. Same cracked linoleum floor my mother kept saying she would replace someday, but never did. Same window over the sink that looked out onto the backyard where my father used to grill burgers on summer evenings. Karen and I had lived here for the past 8 years, ever since we got married. The mortgage was paid off, which was the only reason we could afford to live here at all on what I made working security at Walmart and what she brought in as a 4th-grade teacher at Lincoln Elementary. 2 modest incomes in a house that was more memory than value, in a neighborhood that was slowly declining, but not quite bad yet. It was Tuesday. I remember because Tuesday was meatloaf night. My mother's recipe. Ground beef, breadcrumbs, ketchup, that little bit of brown sugar that makes it taste just right. I had made it myself because Karen said she was too tired after parent-teacher conferences to cook. "We need to talk about the credit card bill," Karen said. She had that tone in her voice, the one that made my shoulders tense up before I even knew what was coming. That careful, controlled tone that meant she had been rehearsing this conversation in her head, building up her arguments, preparing for battle. I looked up from my dinner. The meatloaf was good. Maybe the best batch I had made in months. Not that it mattered now. "What about it?" Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. It's $400 over what we budgeted. She set down her fork with that careful precision that meant she was angry. Really angry. The fork made a small clink against the plate, a sound that seemed louder than it should have been in the quiet kitchen. "I know," I said. I had known this conversation was coming, had been dreading it since I saw the bill 3 days ago. "My car needed new tires. I told you about that." "You told me it needed 1 tire. It needed 4. The guy at the shop showed me. The tread was completely gone. He said it wasn't safe to just replace one. The car would pull to one side, maybe cause an accident. I had to do all 4. Karen set down her fork with that careful precision that meant she was angry. Really angry. "So you just made that decision without talking to me?" "I talked to you. You said to do what I needed to do." "I said to get the 1 tire fixed. 1, not 4, not $400 worth." I took a breath and counted to 3 in my head. This was how it always went lately. Everything I did was wrong. Every decision I made was stupid. Every dollar I spent was wasteful. Every conversation turned into an argument about my judgment, my priorities, my worth as a partner. "Karen, the car is 12 years old. We've put 140,000 miles on it. The tires were bald, all 4 of them. If I only replaced 1, the car would have pulled to one side and probably gotten us into an accident. Or blown a tire on the highway. Is that what you wanted?" "Don't patronize me." "I'm not patronizing you. I'm explaining. There's a difference." "You're always explaining," she said, her voice rising now, losing that careful control. "You're always justifying. You're always making excuses for why you can't just do what we agreed on, why you can't just follow through on a simple plan. 1 tire. That was the plan. 1 tire. I put my fork down, too. The meatloaf sat on my plate, getting cold, congealing in its own grease. My appetite was gone anyway. "What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry I kept us safe? That I should have risked our lives to save $200? "I want you to take responsibility." "For what?" For keeping our car from breaking down? For making a decision that any reasonable person would make? She pushed her chair back. It scraped against the linoleum floor, that awful fingernails on chalkboard sound that makes your teeth hurt and your spine tingle. She stood up, and I could see her hands were shaking. You know what? I am so tired of this. I am so tired of carrying everything in this relationship. I work all day with 28 kids who can barely read, kids whose parents don't care, kids who come to school hungry and dirty and broken. I come home and make dinner half the time, I do the laundry, I pay the bills, I keep track of everything we own, every penny we spend, every obligation we have, and you just coast along making minimum wage at Walmart, watching people steal candy bars, and acting like you're contributing equally to this marriage. That stung. It was meant to. She knew exactly where to hit, to make it hurt. I work 40 hours a week, I said quietly, trying to keep my voice level, trying not to give her the satisfaction of seeing me angry. Same as you, sometimes more when they need someone to cover a shift. Oh, please, she laughed, and it was not a nice laugh. It was cold, mocking. You stand around watching people steal candy bars and shopping carts full of diapers they can't afford. I'm shaping young minds. I'm making a difference in these kids' lives. I'm the only stability some of them have. What are you doing? What difference are you making? What purpose are you serving besides collecting a paycheck and taking up space? I looked at her across the table, really looked at her. Karen was 34, same as me. We had met in high school, started dating senior year when we were paired up for a chemistry project and discovered we actually liked each other. Got married when we were 26 because it seemed like the right time, the right thing to do, the natural next step after 8 years of dating. She had blonde hair that she wore in a ponytail most days because she said it was more professional for teaching, though I remembered when she used to wear it down all the time, wild and loose and beautiful. And she used to have this smile that made me feel like I was the only person in the world who mattered. Like when she looked at me, she saw someone worth loving. I had not seen that smile in a long time, maybe a year, maybe longer. You really think that little of me? I asked. My throat felt tight. After everything we've been through together? I think you could do more, she said, and her voice was softer now, but somehow more cutting because of it. I think you could try harder. I think you could be more than what you are. I think you could have ambition, drive, some kind of vision for your future, for our future. Instead, you're content to just exist, to just go through the motions day after day, year after year, never growing, never changing, never becoming anything more than adequate. I think I've been faithful to you for 8 years, I said, and even as the words came out, I knew they sounded defensive, knew they sounded weak. I think I've been here every single night. I think I've fixed things when they broke and cooked dinner when you were tired and listened to you complain about your day and supported you through everything, through your mother's passing, through your struggles with the administration at school, through every hard thing we've faced. But apparently, that's not enough. Apparently, just being a decent husband who shows up and tries his best isn't worth anything to you. Faithful? Karen laughed, and it was a cruel sound, sharp and brittle like breaking glass. You want credit for being faithful? That's the bare minimum of marriage, not some grand achievement you get to wave around like a trophy. Congratulations, you managed to keep your pants on. What a hero. What an absolute champion of husbandry. Should I give you a medal? Should I throw you a parade? The thing was, she said it with such contempt, such absolute disdain. Like the idea of me being with another woman was laughable. Like I was so pathetic that even basic fidelity was somehow beneath recognition. I have been a good husband, I said. No, she said. You've been adequate. You've been acceptable. You've been the guy I settled for because I thought you'd grow into something more, and instead, you just stayed exactly the same. I stood up then. My hands were shaking, and I shoved them in my pockets so she would not see. Where is this coming from? It's coming from 8 years of disappointment, she said. 8 years of watching you coast. 8 years of realizing that this is it. This is my life. This is all I'm ever going to get. Then leave, I said. The words came out before I could stop them. Karen went very still. What did you say? I said leave. If I'm so disappointing, if I'm such a failure, then leave. Go find someone better. Go find someone who's more than adequate. For a second, I thought she might back down. I thought she might realize she had pushed too far, that we had both said things we did not mean, that we needed to take a breath and calm down and talk like adults. Instead, she smiled. You know what? She said. Maybe I will. She walked past me, out of the kitchen, and I heard her footsteps going up the stairs. I stood there, listening to her moving around in the bedroom above me. Drawers opening and closing, the closet door, the sound of a suitcase being dragged out from under the bed. I followed her upstairs. She was packing. Actually packing. Clothes going into the suitcase in messy handfuls, like she could not get them in there fast enough. Karen, wait. Let's talk about this. I'm done talking, she said, without looking at me. You're really leaving? I'm putting our marriage on pause, she said, zipping the suitcase closed. I need time to think. I need space. I need to figure out if this is really what I want for the rest of my life. Where are you going to go? Linda's, she said. Linda was her friend from work, another teacher. I had met her at a few school events. She seemed nice enough, though she always looked at me like she was trying to figure out what Karen saw in me. For how long? I don't know, Karen said. She grabbed the suitcase handle and pulled it off the bed. It hit the floor with a thump. A week, a month, however long it takes. This is crazy, I said. We had a fight about tires. People don't leave their marriage over tires. She looked at me then, and her eyes were cold. This isn't about tires, and you know it. This is about everything. This is about who you are and who I thought you'd be, and the gap between those two things that just keeps getting wider. She walked past me again, dragging the suitcase behind her. I followed her down the stairs, trying to think of something to say that would make her stop, that would make her see reason, that would make this whole nightmare conversation rewind and disappear. She grabbed her purse and her keys from the hook by the door. Karen, please. I'll call you when I'm ready to talk, she said. And then she was gone. I stood in the doorway and watched her put the suitcase in the trunk of her car. The porch light cast long shadows across the driveway. It was October, and the air had that sharp, cold edge that meant winter was coming. Everything okay? I turned. Bill Patterson was standing on his porch next door. Bill was retired, 60-something, the kind of neighbor who knew everyone's business but was decent enough not to spread it around, usually. Yeah, I said. Just a disagreement. Bill looked at Karen's car backing out of the driveway. Looks like more than a disagreement. She's staying with a friend for a few days. He nodded slowly. Well, if you need anything, you know where I am. Thanks, Bill. I went back inside and closed the door. The house felt different already. Emptier. Like Karen leaving had taken something essential with her, some quality of life that I had not even realized was there until it was gone. I went to the kitchen and got a beer from the fridge. Then I got another one. I sat on the couch in the living room and drank them both while I stared at the wall and tried to make sense of what had just happened. The thing that kept bothering me, the thing I could not shake, was the way she had smiled when I told her to leave. Like she had been waiting for me to say it. Like she had wanted me to give her permission. And the way she had talked about being faithful, the contempt in her voice, the mocking tone. I have been completely faithful all these years. That is what she had said during the fight, those exact words. Why would she say that? Why would she bring up faithfulness unless it was on her mind? I got another beer. The more I thought about it, the more wrong it felt. The whole fight felt staged, like Karen had been building up to it, like she had wanted an excuse to leave and had just been waiting for the right moment to pull the trigger. But why? I sat there drinking until the room started to blur at the edges, until the questions started to fade into a kind of numb acceptance. She was gone. She wanted space. I had to give her space. Maybe she would come back. Maybe we would work it out. Maybe. But somewhere deep in my gut, in that place where you know things before your brain catches up, I knew that something was very, very wrong with this picture. I just did not know what yet. I called in sick to work the next day. My supervisor did not sound surprised. I probably sounded as terrible as I felt. Around noon, I called my best friend Danny. We had known each other since middle school, and if anyone could help me make sense of this mess, it was him. "She left?" Danny said when I finished explaining. "Just like that?" "Just like that," I said. I was still on the couch. I had slept there, or tried to. Mostly I had stared at the ceiling and listened to the house settle and creak around me. Over a fight about tires? That's what I keep saying, it doesn't make sense. Danny was quiet for a moment. I could hear him breathing, thinking. Danny was a mechanic, ran his own shop, and he had the kind of practical intelligence that cut through problems like a hot knife through butter. "How long has she been acting weird?" he asked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, this didn't come out of nowhere. People don't just explode like that unless something's been building. Has she been distant? Distracted? Coming home late?" I thought about it. "She's been working a lot of late nights, parent-teacher conferences, lesson planning, grading papers, teacher stuff." "How often?" "I don't know. 3, 4 times a week?" "For how long?" I tried to remember. When had it started? When had the late nights become routine instead of occasional? 6 months? Maybe longer? And you didn't think that was strange? "She's a teacher, Danny. Teachers work hard." "Yeah, but every single night?" "Come on, man, you're smarter than that." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe you should talk to her. Face to face, not over the phone. Go to Linda's place and have an actual conversation like adults. She said she'd call when she's ready. And you're just going to sit here and wait? While she's at Linda's doing God knows what? No. You need answers. You need to look her in the eye and ask her what's really going on." He was right. I knew he was right. Sitting here feeling sorry for myself was not going to accomplish anything. "Okay," I said. "I'll go tonight." "Good. And listen, whatever you find out, I've got your back, okay?" "Okay." I hung up and spent the rest of the day cleaning the house. It gave me something to do with my hands, something to focus on besides the growing sense of dread in my stomach. I vacuumed and did dishes and took out the trash and tried not to think about what I might find out when I saw Karen. At 6 o'clock, I got in my car and drove to Linda's apartment. She lived in a complex on the east side of town, one of those generic 2-story buildings with parking in front and stairs on the outside. I had been there once before for a birthday party Linda threw a few years back. I parked and walked up to apartment 2C. I could hear a television inside, some game show with canned laughter. I knocked. Linda opened the door. She was in her 30s, brown hair, glasses, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. When she saw me, her expression went from neutral to uncomfortable in about half a second. "Oh," she said. "Hi." "Hi, Linda. Is Karen here?" "She's not. She went out." "Where?" Linda hesitated. "I don't know. She didn't say." "Can I come in and wait for her?" "I don't think that's a good idea." "Linda, please. I just want to talk to her. I'm not going to cause a scene or anything. I just need to understand what's happening." She looked at me for a long moment, then sighed and stepped aside. "Fine. But if she gets mad at me for letting you in, that's on you." "Fair enough." The apartment was small but tidy. Linda gestured to the couch and I sat down. She muted the television but did not turn it off. The silence between us stretched out awkwardly. How long is she planning to stay? I asked. She didn't say. Is she okay? She's processing. I laughed, but it came out bitter. Processing. That's one way to put it. Linda sat down in the chair across from me. She was not looking at me directly, and I got the sense that she wanted this conversation to be over as quickly as possible. Linda, can I ask you something? I guess? Do you know why she really left? She said you two had a fight. We did. But it feels like there's more to it than that. It feels like she was looking for an excuse. Linda did not say anything. You're her friend, I said. You talk to her. She tells you things. So I'm asking you, as someone who just wants to understand what's going on, do you know if there's something else? Something she's not telling me? Linda looked down at her hands. They were clasped together in her lap, fingers twisting around each other nervously. I can't get in the middle of this. I really can't. You're already in the middle of it. She's staying at your place. You're harboring her while she figures out whether she wants to stay married to me or not. That's different. How? How is that different? She did not answer, just kept looking at her hands like they contained some secret code she was trying to decipher. Linda, I said, and I leaned forward, trying to catch her eye, trying to make her understand how desperate I was feeling. Please, I'm not angry at you. I promise I'm not going to yell or make accusations or put you in an impossible position. I just need to know the truth, because right now nothing makes sense. Karen leaves over a fight about tires. She tells me I'm adequate. She acts like our entire marriage has been some kind of prison sentence she's been serving, and I can't shake the feeling that there's something else going on. Something she's not telling me. Something she's been hiding. Linda's jaw tightened. She looked like she was fighting with herself, weighing her loyalty to Karen against something else. Maybe pity for me. Maybe her own conscience. Maybe just the exhaustion of keeping someone else's secret. I shouldn't tell you this, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. My heart started pounding. Tell me what? She made me promise not to say anything. She made me swear. Linda, please. She took a deep breath, like she was about to jump off a cliff and was trying to gather her courage. She's seeing someone. She's been seeing someone for a while now. The words hit me like a physical blow. For a second, I could not breathe, could not think, could not process what I had just heard. The room seemed to tilt sideways, the walls closing in, everything going slightly out of focus. What? I managed to say. The word came out strangled, barely audible. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't be the one telling you this, but you deserve to know. She's been seeing someone, another man. She goes out to meet him almost every night. That's where she is right now, with him. My hands were gripping the edge of the couch cushion so hard my knuckles had gone white. Who is he? His name is Tyler Hammond. His name is Tyler Hammond. He's the father of one of her students. I felt like the room was tilting. A parent? She's sleeping with a parent? I don't know if they're sleeping together, Linda said, though her tone made it clear she thought they probably were. But they're definitely involved. She talks about him all the time, how he understands her, how he makes her feel alive, all that stuff. How long? I asked. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, distant, like it was coming from someone else. A year, Linda said. Maybe a little more. A year. A full year. While I had been going to work every day, coming home every night, cooking dinner, doing laundry, being a husband, Karen had been with someone else. For a year. Where is she right now? I asked. Linda looked uncomfortable again. I think she's with him. Where? I don't know. They meet up somewhere. She doesn't tell me the details. I stood up. My legs felt shaky, but I managed to stay upright. Does he know she's married? I think so, yeah. Does he have a family? Linda nodded. A wife and 2 kids. So they're both cheating. I guess. I walked to the door. My hand was on the knob when Linda spoke again. "I'm sorry," she said. "I really am. Karen's my friend, but what she's doing isn't right. You didn't deserve to find out like this." "No," I said. "I didn't." I left the apartment and got in my car. I sat there in the parking lot, gripping the steering wheel, trying to keep my hands from shaking. A year. All those late nights. All those parent-teacher conferences and lesson planning sessions and grading marathons. All lies. All cover stories so she could be with someone else. And she had looked me in the eye and told me she had been completely faithful. She had stood in our kitchen and mocked me for wanting credit for being faithful, while she was sleeping with a student's father. I started the car and drove. I did not have a plan. I did not know where I was going. I just needed to move, needed to drive, needed to do something besides sit still and let the reality of this sink in. Eventually, I found myself back at home. I parked in the driveway and sat there, staring at the house my parents had left me. The house where Karen and I had built 8 years of what I thought was a life together. How much of it had been real? How much of it had been a lie? I went inside and sat on the couch and tried to think, tried to plan, tried to figure out what I was going to do with this information. But all I could think about was Karen's face when she told me to stop patronizing her, the contempt in her voice, the way she had smiled when I told her to leave. She had wanted out. She had wanted an excuse to go be with Tyler Hammond without feeling guilty about it. And I had given it to her. I got up and went to the kitchen and got another beer. Then I got my laptop and opened it on the table. I needed to know more. I needed to see who this man was, what he looked like, what kind of person would break up 2 marriages for an affair with a teacher. I typed Tyler Hammond into the search bar and started digging. Tyler Hammond had a nice smile. That was the first thing I noticed when I found his social media page. He had one of those professional profile pictures where the lighting is just right, where the background is tastefully blurred, where his teeth are just white enough to look expensive but not fake. He was wearing a suit in the photo, navy blue, probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. He was 42, worked in insurance, some kind of regional manager position at one of those big national companies. His wife's name was Jennifer. She was blonde, pretty in that suburban mom way, always smiling in the photos. His kids were named Austin and Emma, 9 and 7 years old. They looked happy in the pictures. Family dinners at nice restaurants, weekend trips to the beach, posts about how blessed he was to have such an amazing life, such a wonderful family, such incredible opportunities. I scrolled through months of photos. Tyler at a company retreat in Colorado. Tyler coaching his son's Little League team. Tyler and Jennifer at some charity gala, both of them dressed up and looking like they belonged on a magazine cover. This was the man my wife was sleeping with. This was the man she chose over me. This was what she wanted, instead of a security guard who made meatloaf and drove a 12-year-old car and lived in a house his parents left him. He did not look special. He looked ordinary, average, like 1,000 other middle-aged men trying to hold on to their youth with gym memberships and hair gel and expensive watches. But he had something I did not. Money, obviously. A nice car. A big house in that development on the north side, where all the houses look the same, but cost $500,000. Status, respect. The kind of life that Karen thought she deserved. Whatever it was, it had been enough to make her risk everything. Her marriage, her job if anyone found out, her reputation, all of it. I closed the laptop and sat there in the dark kitchen. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the settling foundation. I tried to sleep, but I could not. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together, Karen and Tyler, holding hands across a restaurant table, kissing in a parking lot, tangled up in cheap motel sheets doing things that were supposed to be private between a husband and wife, things that were supposed to belong to me and only me. The next evening, I made a decision. I needed to see it for myself. I needed proof. Not because I did not believe Linda. I believed her. But some part of my brain, some stubborn, stupid part that still wanted to believe in the woman I had married, needed to see it with my own eyes. Needed confirmation that this was real, that Karen had actually done this, that the last 8 years of my life had been built on a foundation of lies. I drove back to Linda's apartment complex around 7 in the evening. The sky was getting dark, that deep purple-gray color it gets in October just before night fully takes over. I parked down the street where I had a clear view of the entrance, but where Karen would not notice me if she happened to look. Then I waited, and waited, and waited. At 7:30, the door to apartment 2C opened, and Karen came out. She was wearing a dress I had never seen before. Something dark and fitted, maybe black or dark blue, hard to tell in the failing light. It showed off her figure in a way that made it clear she had not worn it for parent-teacher conferences or lesson planning. Her hair was down, loose around her shoulders instead of pulled back in the practical ponytail she usually wore. She had makeup on, more than usual. I could see it even from this distance. She looked good, better than she had looked in months, better than she had looked for me in years. She was dressed for someone else, for Tyler Hammond. She had taken time and care to look beautiful for him, while I got sweatpants and unwashed hair and barely concealed contempt. She got in her car, a Honda that we had bought together 5 years ago, when her old one finally gave up. I watched her back out of the parking space, watched her headlights sweep across the lot, watched her drive toward the exit. Then I followed. I kept a few cars back, the way they do in movies. I did not know if that actually worked in real life, if it was enough distance to avoid being spotted, but Karen was not checking her mirrors anyway. She was too focused on wherever she was going, too excited about whoever she was about to see. Her husband following her was probably the last thing on her mind. She drove to the other side of town, to a neighborhood I recognized. Nice houses, 2-car garages, trees lining the streets, manicured lawns, the kind of place where people had riding lawnmowers and in-ground pools and kids who went to private schools. She pulled into the parking lot of a chain restaurant called Sullivan's. I knew the place. It was the kind of spot where couples went for anniversaries and birthday dinners, where business people took clients for lunch, where everything on the menu cost $20 and came with a side salad and fresh-baked bread. Karen and I had been there once, maybe twice, for special occasions when we could afford it. I parked a few rows away, far enough that they would not notice me but close enough that I had a clear view of the restaurant entrance. The parking lot was about half full. Wednesday night dinner crowd, families, couples, normal people doing normal things. I waited. 5 minutes later, a man walked up to the restaurant entrance from the other side of the parking lot. I recognized him immediately from his profile picture. Tyler Hammond. He was wearing slacks and a button-down shirt, no tie, casual but put together. He looked around nervously, his eyes scanning the parking lot like he was afraid someone might see him, might recognize him, might figure out what he was doing here. Then he ducked inside. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard they hurt. 10 minutes later, Karen and Tyler came out together. They were holding hands. I felt something break inside me, something small and essential, like a load-bearing bone snapping clean through. Some part of me that had still been hoping this was all a misunderstanding, that Linda had gotten it wrong, that there was some innocent explanation for everything. But there was no mistaking what I was seeing. The way they looked at each other, the way Karen laughed at something he said, that same laugh she used to give me back when we were dating, back when I was funny and interesting and worth her time. The way his thumb brushed across the back of her hand. Intimate, familiar, practiced. They walked to the far end of the parking lot where a BMW was parked. Silver. New. Probably cost more than I made in a year. Of course it was a BMW. Of course Tyler Hammond drove a BMW. Of course, Karen's lover was the kind of man who drove expensive cars and wore expensive clothes and could afford to take her to nice restaurants and make her feel special in ways I apparently could not. They got in the BMW. Tyler started the engine, and then they drove off, and I followed them again, staying back, staying hidden, watching my marriage dissolve in real time like a photograph left out in the rain. They did not go far, just a few miles down the highway to a motel called the Blue Moon Inn. It was one of those places with rooms that opened directly to the parking lot, where the neon sign out front advertised vacancy and weekly rates and HBO. The kind of place where people went when they wanted privacy, when they wanted anonymity, when they wanted a room with a bed and did not care much about anything else. Tyler parked near the back. They got out. He looked around again, that same nervous scanning motion, then walked to the office. Came back a minute later with a key dangling from a plastic tag. They walked to room 114 together and went inside, and the door closed behind them, and I sat there in my car staring at that door, like if I looked at it long enough, it might open back up, and this whole thing might turn out to be some kind of elaborate nightmare I could wake up from. Room 114. My wife was in there with another man. Right now. At this exact moment. While I sat out here in the parking lot like a fool. Like the pathetic, adequate, acceptable husband who was not good enough to keep her interested. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands, took pictures, the motel sign with its flickering neon letters, Tyler's BMW with its vanity plates, the door to room 114 with its faded paint and tarnished brass numbers. I did not know what I was going to do with these pictures, did not have a plan, did not know what came next. I just knew I needed them, needed evidence, needed something concrete to hold on to, something that proved I was not crazy, that this was really happening, that the woman I had loved for 8 years was really in that room doing God knows what with someone else. I sat there for an hour, the longest hour of my life, 60 minutes that felt like 60 years. The parking lot was quiet except for the occasional car driving past on the highway. The motel sign buzzed and flickered. A couple came out of room 108, got in their car, drove away. Normal people living normal lives while mine fell apart. Finally, I could not take it anymore. I started my car and left, drove home through streets that looked the same as they always had but felt completely different, like I had crossed over into some parallel universe where everything was slightly wrong. I did not confront them. I did not bang on the door or make a scene. I just drove home and sat on my couch and looked at the pictures on my phone and tried to figure out what came next. Because the thing was, I was not sad anymore. I was angry. Not the hot, explosive kind of anger that makes you throw things and yell. The cold kind. The calculating kind. The kind that sits in your chest like a block of ice and makes you think clearly for the first time in days. Karen had humiliated me. She had lied to me for a year. She had destroyed our marriage while pretending everything was fine, while making me feel like I was the problem, like I was the one who was not good enough. And now she was with Tyler Hammond in a cheap motel room, probably laughing about how easy it had been to fool her stupid husband. I looked at the pictures again. Karen was a teacher. Her reputation was everything. Her career depended on parents and administrators trusting her, respecting her, believing she had good judgment and strong moral character. What would happen if people knew she was sleeping with a parent? What would happen if the school found out? If the other parents found out? If everyone found out? I smiled. I knew exactly what would happen. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. It was not complicated. It did not require special skills or resources. It just required me to do one thing that would set off a chain reaction I could not take back. I got up, showered, got dressed. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked the same as always. Average height, brown hair starting to thin a little at the crown, a few lines around my eyes. I did not look like someone who was about to ruin 2 lives. but I was. I transferred the photos from my phone to my laptop. Then I drove to the FedEx print shop downtown and printed 200 copies of the clearest picture. The one that showed Karen and Tyler holding hands in the restaurant parking lot, their faces clearly visible, the timestamp in the corner proving it was recent. The kid behind the counter did not even look at what he was printing. He just rang me up and handed me the stack of copies in a large envelope. I drove to Lincoln Elementary. School was in session. Perfect. The parking lot was mostly full. I parked near the back and waited until I saw a group of teachers heading into the building with their coffee cups, laughing about something. Then I got out with my envelope and walked toward the entrance like I belonged there. The front office was busy. The secretary was on the phone, and 2 parents were waiting to talk to someone. Nobody noticed me walk past and down the hallway toward the classrooms. I had been here before for school events. I knew the layout. The classrooms were on the first floor. The cafeteria and gym were downstairs. The administration offices were on the second floor. I started with the classrooms. I taped a picture to each door. Then I taped pictures to the bulletin boards in the hallways. Then I went downstairs and put pictures on every table in the cafeteria. Nobody stopped me. A few teachers passed me in the hallway and nodded politely, assuming I was a parent or a visitor. I nodded back and kept going. I went upstairs to the administration offices, the principal's door, the vice principal's door, the teacher's lounge, the copy room, pictures everywhere. By the time I was done, I had used all 200 copies. They covered the school like wallpaper. You could not walk 10 feet without seeing Karen and Tyler holding hands, their faces frozen in that moment of intimacy that was never supposed to be public. I walked out the front entrance and got in my car and drove away. School let out at 3:15. I was home by then, sitting on my couch, waiting. My phone rang at 3:45. I did not recognize the number, but I answered anyway. "Hello?" "You son of a bitch." Karen's voice was shaking with rage. "What did you do?" "I made sure people knew the truth," I said calmly. "You had no right." "I had every right. You're my wife, remember? You destroyed me. Do you understand that? You destroyed my career, my life, everything." "No," I said. "You destroyed it. I just made sure everyone could see what you'd been hiding." She was crying now. Angry tears, the kind that make your voice go high and tight. They fired me. The principal called me into her office and fired me, in front of everyone. They said I violated the ethics code. They said I compromised my professional integrity. They said parents are already calling and demanding I be removed. "That's unfortunate," I said, and I meant it. It was unfortunate that she had put herself in this position, that she had made these choices. "Tyler won't even talk to me," she said. "His wife found out. Someone sent her pictures too. She's threatening to divorce him and take everything. He said it's my fault. He said I should have been more careful." He sounds like a real winner. "This is all your fault." "No," I said. "This is all your fault. You cheated. You lied. You humiliated me. All I did was make sure everyone knew who you really are." She made a noise that was half sob, half scream. "I hate you. I know. I'm coming over, right now. We need to talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about." "I'm coming over," she said again, and hung up. I put the phone down and waited. Karen showed up 40 minutes later. I heard her car in the driveway, the door slamming, her footsteps on the porch. She did not knock. She tried the door, found it unlocked, and burst in like a storm. "How could you?" she shouted. She was still wearing her work clothes, but they were rumpled now. Her hair was a mess, her makeup smeared from crying. "How could you do that to me?" I stood up from the couch. "You should leave." "No, you don't get to destroy my life and then tell me to leave. You don't get to do that." "Your life was already destroyed," I said. "You just didn't know it yet. I made a mistake, okay? I made a mistake. But what you did was cruel. It was vindictive. It was designed to hurt me in the worst possible way." "Yes," I said. "It was." She stared at me. You're not even sorry. Why would I be sorry? You cheated on me for a year. You lied to me every single day. You made me feel like I was the problem, like I was the one who wasn't good enough. And all the while, you were sleeping with someone else. I was unhappy. So you talk to me. You tell me you're unhappy. You ask for counseling or a separation or a divorce. You don't sneak around behind my back with a married man and then act like you're the victim when it all falls apart. Karen's face twisted with anger. You're pathetic. You know that? You're a pathetic little man who couldn't handle the fact that I found someone better than you. Someone who actually listens to me. Someone who makes me feel special. Is that what Tyler told you? That you were special? He meant it. No, he didn't. He wanted to sleep with you, and he told you whatever you needed to hear to make that happen. And now that it's inconvenient, now that his wife knows and his reputation is on the line, he's done with you. You said it yourself. He won't even talk to you. That's because of you. No, I said. That's because of him. He's a coward. He was never going to leave his wife for you. He was never going to risk his comfortable life for an affair with a teacher. You were a distraction, a fantasy, and now the fantasy is over. She hit me, an open-handed slap across the face that made my cheek sting and my eyes water. I did not hit her back. I just stood there and looked at her. I want the house, she said. You can have the car and whatever else, but I want the house. I earned it. I put up with you for 8 years, and I earned it. I laughed. Actually laughed. You're not getting the house. This is a community property state. I'm entitled to half of everything. The house was my inheritance. It was never marital property. You're not entitled to anything. Her face went pale. You're lying. I'm not. Check with a lawyer if you want. But this house was left to me by my parents. You have no claim to it. Then I'll take half of everything else. Your retirement, your savings. We don't have savings. We have debt, credit card debt, car payments, all the normal stuff. You can have half of that if you want. She realized then how thoroughly she had miscalculated. She had thought leaving me would be easy. She had thought she would move in with Tyler, or get the house, or at least walk away with something to show for 8 years of marriage. Instead, she had nothing. No husband, no lover, no job, no house, nothing. You can't do this to me, she said quietly. It's already done. I have nowhere to go. That's not my problem. Please, she said, and for the first time, she sounded genuinely desperate. Please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can start over. I'll apologize. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't throw me out. Don't leave me with nothing. I walked to the front door and opened it. Get out. No. Get out, or I'll call the police and have you removed for trespassing. This is my home. No, I said. It's not. It never was. You were just living here. She looked at me with something like shock, like she could not believe what she was hearing, like she could not believe I was capable of this. But I was. I absolutely was. Get out, I said again. She stood there for another moment, her face cycling through emotions too fast to track. Anger, disbelief, fear, despair, and then, finally, resignation. She walked past me out the door, down the porch steps, across the lawn to her car. I closed the door before she could turn around, before she could try one more time to plead her case or manipulate me or make me feel guilty. I sat back down on the couch and listened to her car start, listened to it back out of the driveway and drive away. The house was quiet, completely quiet. I looked around, at the walls my parents had painted, at the furniture we had picked out together, at the life we had built that had turned out to be nothing but lies and broken promises. My phone buzzed, a text message from Bill Patterson next door. Saw what happened, saw the pictures too. Half the neighborhood has them by now. She brought it on herself. I did not reply. Another text came through a minute later. You did what you had to do. I still did not reply. I set the phone down and sat there in the silence of the empty house. Karen had lost everything. Her job, her lover, her marriage, her reputation. By tomorrow, everyone in town would know what she had done. The pictures had probably spread online by now. Someone at the school had probably posted them. These things always spread. She would carry this with her for years, maybe forever. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No guilt. No regret. Just the cold certainty that it was done. That I had done what needed to be done. That I had won. Outside, the sun was setting. The house was getting dark. I did not turn on the lights. I just sat there in the gathering shadows and thought about tires and credit card bills and all the stupid, ordinary things that had led to this moment. Somewhere across town, Karen was probably crying, probably calling Linda to see if she could stay longer, probably realizing that her life as she knew it was over. And I was here. In the house my parents left me, alone, the way it was always going to end up. The door was closed, the locks were turned, and Karen was on the other side of it, with nowhere to go and no one left who wanted her. I had done this. Me. The pathetic security guard. The man who was not good enough. The man who was just adequate. I had taken everything from her the same way she had tried to take everything from me, and now it was over.